Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Gerry Show, everybody. It's Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Thanks for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow this show, share with whomever needs to hear the truth so we can unwoke America together, and God knows we need it. And thank you to all those that have been doing that. I appreciate you so much. It's now time for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go. Let's poke the elephant in the room, shall we? Let's take a look at this. Look at these election results that we found just yesterday. Now, many people are upset about this. They're downtrodden about this. Who could blame them? It wasn't a very good night for Republicans. Okay? We can look at this and say, we came short, we should have done more, we should have done this, we should have done that. Understand this, though. These are all deep blue areas of the country. Okay? New York City is a deep blue part of the country, folks. It just is. There's no way a Sliwa is going to win that race. And it's pretty stupid that he stayed in that race. That's my estimation. Obviously, he can do whatever he wants. But he had no chance of winning. I said that to you before. Zero chance of winning. And it gave light to Mamdani to get right over the top. Just barely over 50%. Barely over 50%. So there you go. There you have a now communist, Muslim sympathizing mayor to run New York City who's never held a real job in his entire life. Good job, New York City. Fantastic. Good for you. Good for you. You deserve everything that you got coming to you, which is not going to be a whole hell of a lot. We saw equally in Virginia, same thing. We see Abigail Spam. That's what I'm going to call her for now. Spam. Just spam. Something nobody really wants. You see it all the time. Yeah, that's what she is. An idiot who wore a bag over her head during COVID. A former CIA operative. He's not going to run your state, folks. Good job. Way to go. Way to go. First Muslim lieutenant governor. Good job, folks. Female, of course. Marking off a couple different boxes there. And, of course, Jay Jones comes over the finish line. A guy who threatened to kill somebody in a text, joked about it, then said he wanted his kids to be killed that were 2 and 5 years old. You can't make this stuff up. He beats the incumbent, Jason Miyares. This is what Virginia wants, apparently. People that incite violence, laugh about violence, talk about violence. Said he's going to piss on their graves afterwards. This are his words, not mine. I mean, these are unhinged people. And now he's the leading law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia. And Abigail Spam wouldn't even denounce this. She wouldn't say a word about it. It's pretty remarkable when you think about whom has been elected. And then, of course, you go to New Jersey. You look at New Jersey. Thought it could have been a close race. Jack Ciattarelli has ran before. He came in very close the last time when he ran against Pill Murphy. And you got to understand, though, 4 years ago, it was right in the heart of COVID. Since then, they've lost roughly 250,000 people that we know of leaving New Jersey. And, demographics change over that time. Now, Donald Trump polled very well. He did very well in New Jersey. Didn't win it, of course. But he closed that gap. And people thought between the 2020 gap and what he had done, it was possible that Jack Ciattarelli could have won. Now, he came short, obviously. But again, you have to understand, it's a deep blue state. There's roughly 1 million. I think it's about almost 1 million. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 850,000, something like that. More Democrats, registered Democrats, than there are Republicans. So it's a very uphill battle to win in these states. Don't think it's not. Don't think it's not. So the funniest part about all this, though, I look at these three races that were the hotbeds we were looking at, obviously. There were other races in other states. One of the things that people came out and said, you know what, I really want, I'm worried about the economy. I'm worried about, public safety. This. Why are you electing Democrats then, you idiots? How stupid are these people? You're really worried about crime and safety? Really? And you're going to elect Abigail Spam? Mikey Sherrill? Really? By the way, Mikey Sherrill voted with Nancy Pelosi, 100% of the time? Oh, yeah, she's going to be a real... They sell themselves as moderates. That's the funny part. All you have to do is look at how they voted. They have a track record. It's not a very good one. Yeah. They're worried about the taxation, worried about the economy, worried about public safety, and they vote for these idiots. It's unbelievable. It's really remarkable. Really, really sad to see that. Well, you know what? Again, they deserve everything they get. They deserve everything they get. Let them have it then. They got to own it now. And where you're going to see them really own it is in New York City. Really going to go well for them, I think. And by well, I mean it's going to go right in the crap house. That's exactly where it's going to go. Let's not waste any time. Let's go over this BBC article I have for you, just to illustrate how detrimental this so-called win, I guess. It's not really a win. It's a loss for New York City, because it's going to be ruined. I told you yesterday there's about 1 million people considering leaving the city should this dunce have won. And, of course, he won last night. And you're going to see an exodus of people leaving the city. They're not going to pay these taxes to this clown to give you free this, free that, free this, free that. They're not going to do it. They had enough. They're already taxed enough, these people. And so the people with money that can are going to, leave to Long Island, leave to upstate New York, leave to Florida. They're probably not going to go to New Jersey anymore. It's one of the highest tax states in the nation, aside from California. But they're going to go to other places. They're going to go to greener pastures. They're not going to stick around for this. Okay, they'll let the lunatic run his city now, right in the ground, and they're not going to be a part of it. So where is Zoran Mamdani going to get this money from? Well, he's going to get Kathy Hochul to raise taxes on everybody. That's what it's going to come down to, folks. Everybody in New York City, everybody in New York State now are going to have their taxes raised. Not just the rich. Remember, that's what he sold it as. I'm going to have the most wealthy people pay 2% more, 1% more. This, yeah, right. Yeah, right. It's going to come down to everybody. And you're going to see that happen. So all you stupid asses out there, these stupid teachers with these stupid Zoran from New York City shirts on, who don't know a damn thing about economics or politics or civics even. Oh, he's gonna get our rent cheaper. No, he's not, you dunce. No, he's not. He can freeze your rent all damn day. Doesn't matter. You know why? Because no one's going to be investing in building in this city. How's he going to fund that, by the way? Where's he going to do if he can't fund that? What do you think? Builders are going to come into New York City now and try to build with this clown in office? Yeah, right. So now you're going to have less housing and the same amount of rent. Well, what's going to happen to that rent over time? He's only going to be able to freeze it for so long, folks. What's he going to do? It's end up going to be raised on you. That's what it's going to come down to. It's supply and demand, folks. Something you're never taught in New York City. No, you were taught to, hate the country, be a communist, learn about the LGBTQ, XYZ, WABC groups, plus minus sign, all that crap. Oh, and of course you learn that America's a racist place. There you go. Good for you. Yeah, good for you. You're going to get it full stop now. And you deserve every little bit of it, New York City. You deserve every little bit of it. And there's nothing really much more to say about it. You're going to get what you voted for. Except you're not going to get any of it. You're going to get much worse. It's going to fall right on you. The dunces who voted for him. So shame on each and every one of you that voted for this clown. But I want to go over this article. This is good. It says here that the election of new mayor in New York City is rarely big news in the UK. But Zoran Mamdani and his victory is generating a lot of attention, particularly on the left of British politics. Why would that be, folks? Let's think about it. Why would that be? Well, look at this. Jubilant Zara Sultana said that this is what its socialist representation looks like. Ah, yes. The people that have taken over London and several other big cities and the UK are now championing Zoran Mamdani, saying that this is it. This is socialism, baby. And of course, we know that socialism is really communism. So the former Labour MP now is in the process of forming a new left-wing party with Jeremy Corbyn. Look at that. That's a real Emmy Award winner right there. Who is also going to be celebrating 34 years as a Democratic Socialist victory. There you go. Corbyn, the former Labour leader, hosted a phone break on Sunday evening to get out the vote for Mamdani, posing with North London for Zoran Arsenal football shirt. Yeah, and the two of them, these two idiots, these two low IQs, are both apparently big fans of the Arsenal football team. But they're also big fans of Mamdani's policies, such as, taxing the hell out of the rich, anyone that produces anything, really, right? Anyone that creates a job of their own. Yep, they love to tax the hell out of them. They love free universal health care, which is not free. It's, paid for by the taxpayer. In this case, the idiots that live in New York City. And, of course, freezing rents. Oh, you don't want anyone that, built their homes, right, or built this apartment building to charge what they should charge for it, right? Deem what the economy deems it as. They're going to freeze the rent. They're going to come and say, you cannot charge this. You cannot raise this for this amount of time. Yeah. Well, that's going to work out really poorly. Just a little history, folks. Richard Nixon did this in 1970. And an economist at the time said this is not a really good idea for you to do this. He did it anyway, but it was a short moratorium where he had price control, I think, on pharmaceuticals and something else. I forgot what it was exactly. But right as that time came up, that 90-day or 60-day, whatever the day it was, where they couldn't raise any of the prices, what happened? The prices skyrocketed. And this is exactly what you're going to see in New York City, folks. All these dummies who are already paying an exorbitant amount for rent, one of the highest rent-controlled areas in the country, New York and then, of course, San Fran Schmucko, the two most expensive areas to live in the country. You're going to see this happen in New York City a lot. It's going to go up a lot, the rent. And it's going to be unaffordable for these people. That's what it's going to come down to. I was reading an article in the Wall Street Journal a couple weeks ago, and they had this dumb, stupid millennial, I think it was, maybe a Gen Z, I don't know, just in his apartment, wearing sandals, the long hair, sitting in front of a big screen TV, nothing in the apartment, no family pictures, none of that stuff. No books, of course no books. These dunces. And then, of course, they're saying, I want to vote for Zoran Mamdani because he's going to fix the rent in New York City. I shouldn't have to pay this much. Oh, really? What do you do when he doesn't fix the rent? Jackass, going to vote for him again in 4 years? Of course you will, because you're an idiot. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's talk British politics for a second. All these policies they're using, and again, I told you this before, we're just a little bit behind Europe right now. So if you want to see how America's going to look no further than London. Look no further than Paris. Look no further than Rome. Look no further than Berlin. All these places have embraced unchecked, illegal migration into their country. They bring all these people into these enclaves inside the cities, and they destroy the cities. Go look at Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan, built by Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company. Now it's a Muslim, I guess, despot. I don't know what else you'd call it. They've got sirens going on so you can pray at certain times of the day. Loud sirens at like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. No, it's one thing to be a Muslim. It's one thing to have a city that is based on Muslim rule. But that's what you're starting to see in parts of that city. That's what you're starting to see in Minneapolis. And again, we're not too far from that happening in America. You're seeing it right now. You're seeing the slow takeover. You're going to let a Muslim run here, let a Muslim run there, let a Muslim run as lieutenant governor in Virginia. Oh, it all seems innocuous and harmless. And I'm not saying anything negative about Muslims in general. I know people that are Muslims who are great people. But you cannot have radicalized people who hate the country run in favor of their religion. You can't do that. You cannot. It's not going to work, folks. It's simply not going to work. And you're slowly seeing this take. They're trying to do it in Texas. They wanted to build a Muslim-based city. How's that going to work out? Well, they deemed it as unconstitutional. But they wanted their own type of Muslim enclave in Texas, of all places. This is years of immigration from the third world. This is illegal immigration in this country. And it's all coming to a head right now, folks. So when Donald Trump is, putting people out on the streets to, get rid of illegal aliens. I really don't care about that, so long as it's done with due process. But you cannot keep bringing in people from the third world that don't give a damn about your values. Otherwise, you are going to become that at some point. And you're seeing this transition slowly starting to take place right now in this country. And again, you're seeing it from across the pond here. You're seeing the communist in London, very happy about this. Saying here, but the fact that Mamdani took out and beat the centrist old guard of his own party, defeating Andrew Slomo, the former Democratic New York governor, who was forced to run as an independent, will also be a morale boost for left-wingers no longer welcome in the labor fold. Yep, there it is. There it is. They said here afterwards, they said, Zoram's historic victory demonstrates that the old politics of the center is bankrupt and a new socialist politics can take its place. Never forget what Ronald Reagan said. He said that if fascism, and he used the term fascism. I think he used fascism. It is either one of the three. Fascism, socialism, one of the two. But I think he said fascism. He said if fascism comes to America, it will come in the form of liberalism. That's how it will come in. Now, why did he say that? Well, because you look at how Democrats operate. They always cater to the least common denominator. Look at all these special groups they have, this minority, that minority. And of course, they champion it, they build it up, recruit for it, build it up, and there you go. This is the same thing happening here. Now, you're seeing it in the sense of Muslims. And they're saying that we're going to build on these policies, they're going to build on this alternative in Britain, just like they're trying to do in America. So this is their game plan. Get people that are not assimilated into America, that don't care about America, that don't care about the Constitution or the rule of law, but care about communism. And again, they hide behind socialism as this moniker. I'm a democratic socialist. No, you're not. You're a communist. And don't tell me he's beating the old guard because he beat Andrew Slomo in a race. He's very much in line with Bernie the Turd Sanders, right? He's playing out of that same playbook. This jerk is funded by Alex and George Soros. They just took a picture together. Soros just came out in a Breitbart article, at least it was reported in it, saying he's never been prouder to be a New Yorker. The American dream is saved. There you go. Now, his version of the dream is saved. He's going to get everybody poor. Well, he continues to make a hell of a lot of money. Again, we shouldn't be shocked by this. This is their plan. This is always their plan. And this is how they manipulate people. They try to give you something for nothing. And it sounds good. Hey, it sounds appealing, doesn't it? Hey, free healthcare. Geez, I need to go to the hospital. I'd love to not pay anything. I can't afford those premiums. I can't afford that visit. Can't afford the out-of-pocket. I'd love to have something for free. So long as somebody else pays for it. It's okay. Same concept, time and time. Whatever little crumbs they can get from somebody, they'll hand anything else over to it. And this is what jackasses like Mamdani count on. People that are such low IQs, that are so useless, that think he's a great candidate, that he's someone for the little guy. Never forget, this is a guy who came from very high wealth. His parents do very well. His father's an academic. Mother's a Hollywood elite. And again, you're going to see people like this all throughout history. They continue to do the same thing. They come from wealth. You can look at Hugo Chavez. You can look at a lot of these leaders. They all come from money. They all stay wealthy. They are the elites of their country. And they're never again subject to any of this. We've seen this time and time again. Now, ZeroHedge has an article kind of discussing exactly what I'm saying about, contrary to human nature. Now, Victor Davis Hanson has said this. He reminds us of the Mamdani-Style socialism that always ends in a complete disaster. And he says that, of course, Democrats are moving closer to socialism. Of course they are. They're moving to the left. They're moving to the AOCs, the Bernie the Turd Sanders. Why would you want to move towards him anyway? That crusty old piece of human trash who's never, again, like Mamdani, never held a job in his entire life. Just ran for office and got lucky in Vermont. If he hadn't won that mayoral race in Burlington, we never would have heard about Bernie the Turd Sanders. We never would have heard about him. But this venom that he's injected now, again, being propped up by the news media and the academics, of course, they view him as somebody who's a likable candidate. Yeah, he's for the little guy, despite the fact that he's a multimillionaire, right? So he's got, 3 different homes that we know of? He's not living under communism. Apparently, under communism, everyone's supposed to be the same, right? That's the goal. Everybody's the same. No, there's no hierarchy, except for the people that, of course, run the government and the stooges of whom that play the way they want. We see it time and time again. But here's what he said last night on Laura Ingraham. And again, it's a clear-cut case of what's happening right now in New York City. You're going to see it happen in Minneapolis, should this Omar Fatah win. And again, they're trying to look for votes for him. Apparently, they can't do it. But this is the slow takeover they want. They're going to sell democratic socialism as this utopia to get the Gen Zers, the millennials, the older idiots that don't know anything, that have sold out this country for decades now. They're going to get right on board with this. This is what they're hoping for. But the other problem here is, understand this. And again, you can look at the demographics in New York City. I'll use New York City as an example. In Queens, just Queens alone, the borough of Queens alone, 48% are foreigners. I want you to stop and think about that. 48% are people that have not been born in the United States, are living there now. So now you have a candidate like Mamdani comes around. He's a young guy. He wears a suit. He smiles. He's all happy about taxation and free this and free that. And it sounds good to you. New York's an expensive place to live, largely because it's been mismanaged for decades. This is exactly what we're seeing right now play out. And I think Victor Davis Hanson says it better than anybody. So let's take a listen.
Well, historically, socialists always come in after capitalists have made prosperity, and then they offer an improved prosperity. They never come in after Pol Pot or Mao or anybody else because they know it doesn't work. And it's contrary to human nature. People like initiative. They like pride in their property. Some people like to work a lot and get compensated, some less. It gives you that freedom of opportunity. And then the society at large benefits, Laura, from all these millions of agendas and ideas that improve if people are free to innovate and to take experiments and risk. But when the state monopolizes all of that, it's contrary to human nature, and then it has to be repressive. So all of these social experiments, even if they're democratic, they end up repressive. And at the worst form, it's no accident that the greatest mass murders in history were Mao and Stalin, 30 million, 60 million, and they were radical communists. And even people like, Hitler, National Socialist Party. In our modern era, it took Margaret Thatcher a whole decade to undo the 40 years of socialism that had wrecked England after the war. And we saw it in Venezuela, we see it in Cuba, and the symptoms, Laura, are always the same. Talented people who can help the economy, who are successful, are demonized. They flee. People who want things for nothing come in. There's open borders. They destroy personal liberty, and they stamp out any dissent or criticism, and there's always an elite.
Don't we already have that in this country? We've already got an elite. Right, we've got a kleptocracy, right? Think of the Soros, all the big billionaires. That way I saw Bill Ackman congratulate Mamdani too. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, a Zionist Jew. Congratulating him, telling him if I can do anything to help you, let me know. Billionaire, of course. Then you got Soros, billionaire. Yep, far leftist. Oh no, come on. Mamdani's for the little guy, right? Not the people that have poured in, $37 million into his campaign? Come on. Where do you think they got all those nice shirts and those placard signs from? You dunces, you. Now, he's absolutely right. They have a elite class. They demonize anybody that stands in the way. They did this in Red China under Mao. The Red Scarves. Go look it up. Go look up the Red Scarves, what they did. Go look up Pol Pot in Cambodia, what they did. Right? After he studied, I think he studied communism in France, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, anybody with glasses had to be targeted because that meant they were smart. That meant they're able to afford things. Right? The Red Scarves in China and the red China, what do? They use the young kids to go after the school teachers, among other people. They go after their parents that spoke out against the government and attack them. And, 60 million people later, there you go. There you go. Then you can look at starvation in Russia. I saw this picture yesterday on one of the social media websites. It was a woman in Poland, I believe, which is now Poland. 1981, looking at her rations for the month. I mean, it was a small little bit of food, but this is all you got for a month. Your rations show up, you take it, you hope to keep it, hope it lasts. Rations for clothing come in, you try to get what you can. Maybe it fits you, maybe it does. I mean, this is what communism brings to you. It never brings the prosperity you think it's going to bring. And it's already been tried time and time again. Why do people think it's going to all of a sudden work now? From a dunce, a 34-year-old dunce who's never ran a damn thing in his life, let alone a city where he is now responsible for 300,000 workers. It'll be interesting to see, folks. I got to tell you, it'll be interesting to see how this jackass runs New York City into the ground. Oh, but you're also happy, so good for you. I'm very happy for you. All you low IQs who do nothing with your life, there you go. You got what you wanted. Look for the exodus, folks. It's going to be a massive exodus out of New York City. Let's shift over to the West Coast now, though. My favorite, the West Coast, the beautiful state of California that's been destroyed by the Democrats for the better part of the last 60 years. Says here, California GOP now sues Gavin Newsom over Prop 50, claims Latinos illegally favored in gerrymandering districts. That's a violation of the Constitution right there. What is Gavin doing when he's not on a podcast or running his mouth on social media? Well, he's not running the state, I can tell you that much. But it says here that the California Republican Party filed a federal lawsuit on Tuesday challenging the state's new congressional district maps. Probably should have done this earlier. Alleging that Democrats illegally used race as a primary factor in redrawing these boundaries to favor Latino voters. The complaint filed under the United States District Court for the Central District of California now seeks to invalidate Prop 50, which voters approved on Tuesday to implement legislature-drawn maps for 2026. By the way, we have no idea who even drew these maps. We have no idea. It's obviously the Democrats, of course. But the legislature is supposed to draw. So you're saying no Republican has any say in it now at all? It's just the Democratic majority, whoever Gavin Newsom deems worthy? Oh, that sounds free and fair. That doesn't sound like you're rigging an election, right? That was the whole thing behind Prop 50. Stop rigging elections. Really? Where you're openly gerrymandering the districts to remove Republican support in the state of California. It's already been decimated, by the way. Don't think it hasn't. So they have 9 seats now. They want to go down to 4 seats now. They want to take 5 seats. It's amazing to me. It's really amazing to me. It says that the lawsuit names both officials in their official capacities as defendants responsible for implementing the challenge maps. And a spokesmoron for Newsom's office said that we haven't reviewed the lawsuit, but if it's from the California Republican Party and Harmeet Dillon's law firm, it's going to fail. Good luck, losers. Go to hell. How about that, you jackasses? They've already stolen seats in California, by the way. Yep. Gavin Newsom. This is going to fall right back on him so badly. I read it yesterday for the Washington Examiner. Totally trying to get Daryl Issa right out of his district, which is, again, is a red district in San Diego County. Yep. I've seen the maps. Trying to get Kevin Kiley out of his district. Kevin Kiley's one of the most outspoken critics of Gavin Newsom, so he doesn't want him around anymore either. Don't think it's going to work, though. Don't think it's going to work. I don't think this lawsuit will probably go anywhere. Maybe it will. Probably not. We've seen this time and time again. Yeah, but it's saying that the California state legislature violated the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, where it drew new congressional district lines based on race, specifically to favor Hispanic voters, without cause or evidence to justify it. Yep. And by the way, they're supposed to put the new maps on the ballot, and they never did, of course. But something's rotting in Denmark in this whole election here. Something's really wrong here. And I say this to you because, again, I look at the evidence as it comes in. And I'm going to read this to you. This is what I was reading last night. So bear with me for just a moment. Hear me out. It might be, misinformation. I don't know. I don't think so. But this is from a group called Save California. And they posted this. They posted this right after the election had just ended. The polling had ended. And it says, early results on Prop 50 in California at 8:15 p.m. With 21.5% of the votes counted, the California Secretary of State reported that the yeses have 65.8%, which is 3,191,475 votes, and the noes are 34.2%, 1,661,508 votes. Again, this is per the election results for the state of California, right off the government website. And so I sat there for a second. I go, wait a minute. I go, 21% of the vote. And I went through all of it, and I did a little bit of math. And here's what I saw. So they're saying at 21.5%, that meant the reported number of votes was 4.8 million, particularly 4,852,983 total votes that had been cast. 65 going to yes, and of course, the remaining going to the noes. Okay, right, whatever. That's not the big issue. But think about this. There are 23.2 registered so-called voters in the state of California, according to U.S. Fact, as of August of 2025. But with those numbers that being reported, that means 97.24% of the eligible voters had cast their ballots in this race. That's a hell of a turnout, I'd have to say, especially in an off-year election. Now, another figure said it was only 22.9 million voters in July of 2025. That would be even worse, though. That means 98.53% of eligible voters had been casting their ballots in this election. Again, a highly insane number to get in an off year, but just for some context. In 2024, in the presidential race, only 59.97% of eligible voters cast their ballots. Something isn't right here. So now this morning, I went on again. I went onto the state website, right, for the Secretary of State. I had to look through it. It's still, not complete, of course. But they got, by county, the turnouts. And I scrolled down. I scrolled on the bottom. And it says here, well, it's not showing me the overall turnout, I don't believe. But I think it's suggesting that 35.1% have voted thus far. That's what they've figured out. 35.1% right now. And they've already called it, right? They've already called the race. They called it, I think, at 8:07 p.m. They called the race for the yeses, of course. So it says turnout percentage is based on the 15-day report of registration. However, due to same-day registrations, voter may register or update their register. Okay. So, again, they're not showing now, all of a sudden, the precincts reporting. What they're saying right now is that they're saying it's partially. There's partial of the precincts being reported. So I don't know what the overall is. We have updates. We have reports in many of these. But a lot of these counties are only at 30%, 50%, 40%. I'm looking at one at 60, Amador County, tiny county. A couple thousand, tens of thousands of people there only. Alameda, big county, 30%. Look at this. Lake County, 26%. LA County, 33%. A massive county like that. And we don't have much of any of the voting. So how can we just say that it's already been called last night? It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any bit of sense to me at all. San Francisco, 36.8%. San Joaquin, 32%. San Luis Obispo, 44%. And again, it's got the rundown of the registered voters and the ballots cast. So again, I don't know if it's the total ballots cast right now or if this is the overall. But if it's, just as of right now, only 35%, that's a lot of people. I mean, that's a lot of people. So if it is, again, I don't think it's 8 million total. Because what I'm seeing now is that there's allegedly 10 million votes. It's all very confusing. I got to be honest with you. I'm looking at this. It's that's going back and forth. And the website doesn't do a great job of telling you. It says ballots cast. This is ballots registered. So again, it's not telling you the exact turnout. But now if I click on the county, for example, if we go into Alameda County, let's see what it shows me here. Statewide election. Let's go to it. It will give me the results for that particular county. But my question is, who is writing this? Who is writing all this stuff? How could you say last night that 21.5% of the overall vote is in, and that's 4.8 million votes, and then you're going to tell me there's only 8 million votes cast? And something's wrong here. Something's definitely wrong here. Of course, we know in California, you don't have to show a voter ID. By the way, you don't have to show a voter ID in Virginia. You don't have to show a voter ID in New Jersey, or, of course, New York City. I think you just show up and vote in many of these states. All you have to do is give an address and then sign your name to it. So we've got a problem. We've got a problem with our election system, of course, in many of these blue states. Of course, these blue sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. California, a state where they can give out driver's license to anybody, obviously can register to vote. And we got to understand one thing. As a result of all this, everything we see here, the big thing that it comes down to is voter integrity. Do we have voter integrity, folks, do you think, in this country? I don't think so. Especially, in these states that keep propping up these elections where they, 5 minutes after the polls close, they know how millions of people voted. It's amazing to me. But of course, in California, they can't figure out who won a 750,000 congressional seat. It takes weeks to count that. So, I'm going to do a little bit more research on this. I've got to look a little bit further because they're not clear on how much of the vote has been cast. Thus far, they're just giving you the results right now. So, again, different websites like AP News is different than a couple other ones. So, I'm going to go through this a little bit more today. But when I was looking at it last night, I go, are you telling me that 95, 97, 98% of the people showed up to vote in this election? Yeah, well, it looks like registered voters, 23,093,274 total registered voters in California. Then it says ballots cast, 8,094,443. So I don't know if that's just as of right now or if that's the overall turnout. So I'm going to keep looking into that. But again, I don't know how they posted last night that the 4.8 million was 21% of the overall vote. And they've already called the race. So I've got to look into that. I'll do that for you. But here was Gavin Newsom afterwards. All happy, all, Mr. Suave, always, always, always. And this is what he had to say.
We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. And
does he not know who Joe Biden was? I think Joe Biden's a little bit more unpopular than Donald Trump. Just thought I'd bring that up to you.
Every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater.
This is coming from a guy who's got about a 44% approval rating, roughly. Many of his policies are anywhere between the mid-30s to the mid-40s, yet somehow every single thing he pushes wins by this usual 61, 62 to 38, 39% margin every single time. Isn't that interesting? I think so.
We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic...
Okay, that was all he had to say. Who cares? This guy's an idiot. He's a jerk. That's all he is. Oh, Donald Trump says to redistrict in Texas. Now we're going to redistrict. Well, hey, genius, Texas took in about a couple million people since 2020 because you kept your state shut down. You had businesses fleeing to states like Texas and Florida and Tennessee and Arizona. So it would make more sense, at least, for a state that's gained such a big population to redistrict now. And of course, we know that Biden tried to inundate Texas with illegal aliens. We know this, obviously. But this has got to stop. This ridiculousness has got to stop. There was no reason to redistrict in California. You're losing population. There's absolutely no reason to do this. And again, it's all geared towards Gavin Newsom maintaining power and gaining power for the Democrats. He wants to get up on that stage in 2028 and say, look at me. Look what I did. I was able to gain 5 more seats for Democrats. What have you done? I'm fighting for democracy. Look at me. Yeah, fighting for democracy. My ass. This guy, I mean, they legitimately are bragging about gerrymandering. Texas is redistricting. That's all they're doing right now. They didn't say they're going to favor Republicans. Now, of course, when you redistrict, they tend to favor, obviously. Gerrymandering has been a thing since the early 1800s. But this is blatant. I'm just going to get rid of your seat now. Now, hey, we're going to redistrict because our population's changing in these areas. And we're going to redraw the maps. This is, hey, I want to get rid of Kevin Kiley. I want to get rid of Doug LaMaffa. I want to get rid of Ken Calvert and Darrell Issa. And there's one other that I want to get rid of. I think of David Valadeo's seat in the Central Valley. They want to get rid of him too. And we're going to make sure that the, 43%-ish of Republicans in the state of California have less voice in D.C. That's totally fine to Gavin Newsom. Does it sound like he believes in democracy? Does it sound like he believes in the will of the people? Of course not. He believes in his will and his intentions. And he spent about $300 million of your taxpayer dollars that he's supposed to be putting to Prop 36 to create some type of law and order in California that he's neglected, by the way, to push this stupid race. So he can have it in the hands of the Democrats in Sacramento to run these seats. That's what he wants. Yep. He wants to be just like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island. I think Maine as well. Vermont, of course, is only one seat, I think. But this is what he wants. States where there's, almost half the population is Republicans and they're getting zero representation in Congress because they gerrymander these seats. So he wants less of a voice in the interior of California so he can go out and do God knows what. Run for president, look good, who knows? Who knows? The guy's a tyrant. In and of itself, it's a tyrant. And by the way, let me say one more thing about these races. Many people said Donald Trump was on the ballot. This was because of Donald Trump. This is because of Gavin Newsom. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Donald Trump isn't rewriting districts. No, he might encourage the state of Texas to do that. Governor Abbott could do that. It's not illegal in his state to redistrict right now. They're not violating their constitution. Gavin Newsom is blatantly trying to do that to remove Republican. He's been open about it. Removing Republican representation in the state of California. That's what it comes down to. So let's not be shocked that this is what he's trying to do. This is exactly his intention, to remove representation in the state of California. All right, now that that's over, and by the way, one more thing. I do want to say this too. For the Republicans out there, listening to the show, or the Republicans running in the future, one thing you've got to remember. It's time to be America first. Not giving away foreign tax dollars, not fomenting wars, all this other nonsense. I know these are state-level positions. But the people that are running in these races, they've got to be for their citizens. They've got to be for their population. They got to be for America. They should be constitutionalist. So they're out there saying, well, I really support this group and this manner. No. You are America first. That's what people want. They want people that care about this country. It's not enough to just say, hey, I'm going to cut taxes. No. What are you going to do? You're going to make sure you follow federal law. You're going to up the education in your states. You're going to make your state more affordable. You're going to show us how you're going to develop, build more housing if that's what your state needs. How are you going to help out your agricultural communities? How are you going to help out your business communities? What are you going to do to attract business in your states? What jobs can kids look forward to when they leave college or high school in your state? Are your ballots going to be written in 10 different languages in your states? What are you going to do? We need a program or some type of, I don't even know what, for some of these people running these races. And I'll give Mamdani this. I'll give this little dunce this. In the mayoral debates, he came out. They were asked, where do you want to spend your first, I guess, foreign trip? Well, I don't know why mayors are going on foreign trips anyways. We saw how that worked out with Maren Care Baslis. She went out to, Ghana in the midst of fire season. Of course, half the city burns down and there's simply no water and fire hydrants. That worked out really well, didn't it? Yeah. And again, she's a communist too, so you can look at, Los Angeles for your little mock trial of how New York City is going to run. And I should have said half of LA is burned down. It was a significant portion of the Malibu, obviously the Palisades, and of course, Eaton Canyon, Pasadena area. Well, this is how the city is run. This is how they run things, right into the ground. And again, if you're a citizen in LA County, they don't even give a damn about you if you live in Malibu or the Palisades. They could care less. They don't give a damn. Your house can burn up. You can lose everything. You can get sideswiped by the insurance companies. They don't care. Gavin Newsom sold a bunch of these plots to foreign investors. You didn't hear about that. And what's been built, by the way, since then? Nothing. And this is his main priority? To redistrict? To remove Republican representation that's already at an all-time low? You can't make it up, can you, folks? But the one thing Mamdani said, I keep going back to Gavin Newsom. It's because I hate him so much. But the one thing Mamdani says is, I'd stay right here in New York City so I could work for New Yorkers. That's what he said. Now, he's probably full of crap. I mean, the guy's been absentee as a state assemblyman. I think 80% of the votes, something like that. But everyone else says, I'll go to Israel, I'll go here, I'll go. Okay, people are sick of hearing that. What are you going to do for your city? What are you going to do for your state if you're a governor? Or if you're a U.S. Senator? What are you going to do for your states? Americans, especially Republicans, want someone that they think is going to stand up for them. Stand up for their values. Look what Texas is doing. Bringing back prayer. Putting crosses in every single... I think they're bringing crosses. I don't think they're bringing back prayer. But they're putting crosses in the public schools now. People in Texas like that. People want you to know that you care about them. Not that you're just beholden to the highest bidder or the highest PAC that donates to you. They want to know that you are an American first person. And until Republicans really start to pick this up and start to figure this out, that talk is cheap, they want to see action. They want to see you're a guy that is going to go, or gal, that's going to go out and work for them. Make their lives better. Make their communities safer. Make their opportunities more available. Make sure their streets are not covered in crime and decadence and filth and drug addicts. This is what they want to see. And again, until you get people motivated to vote, they're going to say, well, I live in a blue state. I live in a blue city. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to go vote. It doesn't matter. And again, when we have these attitudes, these types of things happen. So, of course, I encourage you to vote. I've said before, I still want forensic auditing, and especially these blue states where there's no voter ID need to be shown when they vote, because it makes everything look less accountable. Of course. Why wouldn't it? And you see that in every single one of these races. No photo ID required. None of that. So how do you know how your vote's been cast? How do you know how many people are registered to vote? You have no idea. California says there's 23 million people registered to vote. Okay. How do you know that? When's the last time you cleaned the voter rolls out? Nobody knows. All right, let's go on. I spent 50 minutes talking about these clowns. Oh, it's okay. This is in LewRockwell.com. It says, now, according to data collected by the research from, law firm Statista, that's it, I think. Statista, okay, whatever. 29% of Americans cannot afford to take a vacation this year. A vacation is not the only thing Americans are struggling to afford. It says here that the failure of wages to keep up with the price of inflation is why household debt has hit a record high level of $18.4 trillion this year. That's an absurd amount of money. with the average household owing more than $100,000 in debt. Now, the Federal Reserve is responsible for the decline of the American living standards. Never forget that. And, of course, the rise of income inequality. Also, don't forget that. That's why we're $38 trillion in debt. The turning point in the people's economic fortunes was on August 15th, 1971. This is when then-President Richard Nixon closed the gold window, severing the last link between the dollar and gold. This left America with a purely fiat currency and no restraint on what the Federal Reserve's ability was to create money. So I want to pause for just a second here. And again, this is written by Ron Paul in Lew Rockwell's website, but Ron Paul wrote this just yesterday. Nixon didn't take us off the gold standard. FDR did. But what Richard Nixon did in 1971, he stopped gold from being transferred from any type of foreign type of investments. So that totally just took that out of the window. Just took everything out. So it wasn't Nixon that took us off the gold standard. That's what everyone keeps coming out and saying constantly. They keep saying, well, Richard Nixon did this. Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard. No, he didn't. We had been off the gold standard for quite some time. But when foreign countries couldn't trade U.S. dollars for gold, that allowed the Fed not to worry about it anymore. So what did the Fed do? Well, it starts printing out whatever the hell it wants. And when you have money that's based in nothing, that becomes a major problem. As you can see, they just keep printing money. Which makes it interesting. Why do we pay taxes if you can just keep printing money? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Anyways, when the Federal Reserve pumps money into the economy, the new money is not equally distributed. It first goes to wealthy, well-connected individuals. And of course, these individuals benefit from having increased purchasing power before the new money has caused these price increases. So let's again, think about this. We have more dollar bills coming into the economy, right? And when you have more dollar bills and the same supply, right? It's going to cost more for that same product. That's just the way things work. You have more dollars chasing fewer things. That's the way it works. So now the Fed also contributes to this economic instability and, of course, inequality by creating these bubbles that distort the signals sent by the market. What is he talking about? Well, the causes over investment in some sectors. We have, things like the housing bubble, right? All that stuff. And again, when these bubbles burst, workers employed in certain sectors lose their jobs, while those on the top suffer the most modest type of setback. Of course, the government bails them out. Think about the too big to fail corporations or the banks that are too big to fail. But the government never considers workers or homeowners as too big to fail. It's just certain people whom the government deems worthy. Right? We saw this with COVID, right? This group's essential. This group's not essential. You can sit at home on your ass and do nothing, collect the $1,400 I send you a month, or, I'll let this business stay open and keep getting richer and richer. That's what we saw during the COVID scam. So now we have the Federal Reserve that facilitates the growth of the welfare state. Welfare state, of course, by purchasing treasury bonds, thus monetizing the federal debt. By the way, we're seeing a crisis with the bond market right now because other people are not buying up our debt. But the majority of these government programs that are, spending on something that benefits powerful special interest, we've got things that include, in large part, military-industrial complex. Think of how much money we spend each year on defense spending. We're spending now $1 trillion on it, more than any other country in the world. What are we doing? We're not putting out nearly as many missiles as Russia or China. They have much smaller militaries than us as far as what they spend, and yet they're more compatible than ours is. Yet we keep spending more and more and more. Well, why is that? Well, because we're spending money to give to other countries. We fund everything in Israel's army. We fund every little bit of it. Every missile they use is ours. So when they're firing a bullet, that's a bullet coming from America. Just understand that. We're, the foreign aid that we continue to do, Fed prints it out, sends it overseas. That's what they're doing. So we have the Fed now continuing to devalue the dollar to finance an empire abroad, right? The global hegemony. And of course, a welfare state at home. And again, it's forcing the erosion of people's living standards. That's what it comes down to. And as the dollar loses purchasing power, The demand for government assistance increases. Look at New York City. That's why he's offering you everything under the sun. And it's going to lead to more government spending, more debt monetization, and of course, the further decline in living standards. That's what you get to look forward to, New York City. See how I tied that in there? That was pretty good, huh? Not too bad. Not too bad. So, what's the end result of this? Well, the fact that, a third of Americans can't afford a vacation obviously illustrates how this fiat currency harms just simple average Americans. Obviously, the continued growth of the federal debt, over $38 trillion now. We have the Fed-created inflation. Again, inflation always starts in one place, and that is always in the District of Criminals, Washington, D.C. And again, it's going to lead to another major economic crisis. So they're either going to induce, or it'll be caused by the rejection of the dollar's world reserve currency. We're seeing, obviously, the BRICS nations moving away from it. They're buying up gold. They're trading in other types of currency. That's a big hit to the dollar because nobody wants to use it anymore. And the result will be the rise of demagogic authoritarians of both left and the right. And, of course, increased political violence, leading to an increase in government repression. There you go. There you go. He's absolutely right about all this. Absolutely right about each and every one of these topics. All right. I have such little time left. I wanted to go over a bunch more articles today. I didn't have enough time. Let me go over these last two very, very quickly, because I had these two from a couple days, and I wanted to go over them today. This is in Slay News. It says that U.S. stillbirths are quietly surging, is what a study warns. Obviously, this is not a positive thing. But it says a troubling new medical study has found that stillbirth rates in the United States are continuing to surge at alarming high levels and show no sign of improvement. Why is that, do you think? Well, I think I know the answer. This peer-reviewed study examined more than 2.7 million pregnancies between 2016 and 2022. Researchers found that roughly 1 in 150 pregnancies, or 6.8 per 1,000, ended in a stillbirth. So a stillbirth, just for everyone that's listening, means that the fetus dies after 20 weeks of pregnancy. So while it's in utero, that's what's considered a stillbirth. Obviously, a baby can be born and unfortunately be dead as well. That's also considered a stillbirth as well. So we have, obviously, from 20 weeks until, obviously, birth, any time that results in the pregnancy ending, that's considered a stillbirth. Now, the rate is still significantly higher than the Center for Disease Creation and Production, the CDC, previous estimates of 1 in 175, or 5.7 per 1,000. So the findings underscore what public health experts are now considering a persistent and, of course, preventable national tragedy that's being underrepresented by the corporate media. Well, nobody's telling you this. That's why you listen to my show. So what could possibly be the reason for this? What have we introduced in the United States that could be causing this? Well, one thing comes to mind. That would be the COVID shot. Yep, COVID shots. Do you think that might have something to do with it? I think so. We're getting 5,000 deaths a week in America as a result of this COVID shot. So you don't think mothers that are pregnant that have taken this could cause the fetus to become a stillbirth? I think so. So now we have here in the study, though. Let's read this. It's saying that, well, look at the risk factors. It says the research found that more than 72% of stillbirths occurred in pregnancies with one or more identifiable maternal or fetal risk factor. Okay, so that could be something they look at. We look at things like low amniotic fluids, fetal anomalies, chronic hypertension of the mother, obesity, diabetes, substance abuse, and, of course, restricted fetal growth. Those are all, obviously, things that could contribute to that. I'm not saying it doesn't. But the fact that just in recent years, I'm sure it's only going to get worse as time goes on, as more mothers had taken this COVID shot, right, which we know, again, has resulted in 5,000 a week, deaths a week in America, as a result of this shot. You're telling me it's not going to have any effect on the fetus inside of you? I think not, folks. I think not. So I wanted to bring this up to you. I thought it was very important. Goes on, obviously, the risk factors are a little bit greater. And the study authors warn that nearly half of the term stillbirths might be preventable with improved predictive tools and, of course, proactive clinical care. That's why, ladies, you need to take your prenatals. If you're pregnant, especially, make sure you're exercising, make sure your diet is as clean as can be. Make sure you're not obviously abusing any type of substance abuse or alcohol or tobacco, or especially any of these vaccinations, especially. That, to me, that's one of the number one culprits why this is starting to uptick. All right, last one. This is a funny article. I thought it was funny yesterday, and why not? This in the Hollywood Reporter. It says Sweeney breaks silence on American Eagle Jeans Uproar. We all know she did that commercial, and it created all this backlash as a result of this. A simple jeans commercial. And, of course, everyone lost their minds over it, which was, again, pretty funny. But she came out recently and said basically that she spoke out about the uproar, which made headline news over the summer. And so everyone from Donald Trump to fellow celebrities and to late night hosts weighing in on it. And she said, this is what she said to GQ. She said, I did a jean ad. I mean, the reaction definitely was a surprise, but I love jeans. All I wear are jeans. I'm literally in jeans and a t-shirt every day of my life. Now, I think she lives in Florida and California, if I'm not mistaken, so that probably makes a lot of sense. But she went on to say that it was surreal to have so many people like the president sounding off on it. And she says, just to kind of end it, she said, I know who I am. I know what I value. I know that I'm a kind person. I know that I love a lot. And I know that I'm just excited to see what happens next. And I don't really let what other people define who I am. I think that's a nice way to end that. I think that's a nice way to end today's show. She doesn't care who these people are. She doesn't care what they say about her. She liked the product. She wanted to advertise it. She made a hell of a commercial. A lot of people liked it, of course. And as a result of it, more American Eagle jeans got sold. So, hey, it's a win-win situation, isn't it? That's the way I think about it, at least. So, good news for Sydney Sweeney. She doesn't care what the lunatics on the left think. Good for her. I appreciate that. Do your own thing, right? As long as it's not hurting anybody. All right, folks, thanks for being here. As always, hope you like the show. I'll have more information, obviously, tomorrow on what's happening geopolitically, as always. But make sure you share the show with some friends. Make sure you're keeping your house in order. Make sure you're storing up food, water, ammo, anything you need to be self-sufficient. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, and God bless.